This is the AI News Flash for August 19th, 12 p.m. UTC. First up, Samsung Electronics has raised prices for advanced contract chip making by as much as 15% on new orders. According to two people familiar with the matter, the increases took effect in July. For the 4nm SF4 process, customers in China and the United States saw hikes of 10 to 15%, while Taiwanese customers saw 5 to 10%. 5nm SF5 wafers rose 10 to 15%, and older 8nm prices rose by nearly 10%. Behind the move is AI chip demand squeezing capacity. Samsung's SF4 line at Pyeongtaek has been running flat out since late last year, and while orders from Chinese customers are especially strong, the company cannot fill them all because it must also serve U.S. clients and reserve capacity for its own chips. Samsung's foundry division has been loss-making since 2022 and held just 7% of global foundry revenue in the first quarter, against more than 70% for TSMC analyst Lee Min-hee at BNK Investment and Securities, said that if Samsung can keep raising prices from here, the foundry business could turn profitable as early as next year. Next, Analog Devices reported record results for the third quarter of fiscal 2026. Revenue came in at $4.022 billion, up 40% from a year earlier. GAAP diluted earnings per share were $2.74, and adjusted earnings per share were $3.45. Operating margin reached 40.1% on a GAAP basis and 50.0% adjusted. Growth was led by the data center and industrial segments, reflecting broad AI-related demand for power delivery and connectivity. Chief Executive Vincent Roche said the company exceeded the midpoint of its revenue margin and earnings outlook on broad-based demand. For the fourth quarter, Analog Devices guided to revenue of about $4.3 billion and adjusted earnings per share of about $3.86. During the third quarter, it returned $1.692 billion to shareholders, made up of $535 million in dividends and $1.157 billion in share repurchases. Third, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has published a 30-page discussion paper laying out a proposed regulatory approach for medical devices powered by generative AI and is now seeking public comment. The proposal centers on a two-axis framework for risk assessment, paired with what the agency calls a competency assessment for pre-market evaluation. That second idea is modeled on how physicians are trained, judging a model whose outputs can change by its level of competence rather than by a single fixed performance test. The scope covers devices that make autonomous decisions with minimal human input, as well as foundation models and agentic AI systems used for post-market monitoring. Comments are open until mid-October. Rick Abramson, director of the FDA's Digital Health Center of Excellence, said generative AI-enabled medical devices are poised to reshape the health technology landscape and that the agency has an important responsibility to provide thoughtful leadership for this new era. Britain's MHRA is working on parallel efforts, and the two regulators announced a collaboration in June. Finally, Europe's AI data center developers are moving their facilities far outside major cities in search of cheaper energy and land, according to figures compiled by real estate firm JLL. Facilities due between 2026 and 2028 sit an average of 175 kilometers from major hubs, compared with just 46 kilometers for projects delivered from 2022 to 2025. Greenfield developments make up 39% of the future pipeline, against 8% of what has already been built, while inner-city projects fall from 13% to 5%. The reason is the cost of land. Powered land runs about 2.36 million euros per megawatt in core markets, reaching 2.7 million in Amsterdam, 2.6 million in London, and 2.5 million in Frankfurt, against roughly 512,000 euros in tertiary areas and as little as 200,000 in some locations. Asad Nouri, JLL's head of European data centers, put it simply: data centers are being brought to where the power is, not the other way around, with the four largest hyperscale providers set to spend $725 billion this year, up 77% from $410 billion in 2025. Power availability is now redrawing the map of where AI gets built. That's all for this AI News Flash.